Okay, so first of all, how did we start this from yesterday? How did we start this from yesterday? Like, how would you start? What, we need coefficients first. How do we find those? Okay, the triangle thing, and what am I looking at? Row 4, okay, because this is degree 4. Now, if you don't want to write out the triangle thing, you could use your calculator and just do 4C0, 4C1, all the way up to 4C4, understanding, though, that we should know some of these. We know that 4C0 is going to be 1, right? And we know that this is going to be 4, and we know it's going to end 4-1, right? Okay. Then, let's fill this in. This would be x to the 4th. What would go here? X to the 3rd. X to the 2nd. Just an x to the 1st. And this is technically x to the 0, but we don't need to write it. Now this is where I want you to be careful. So the second term, if it's subtraction, we're going to treat it as a negative 3y. So this is going to end with a negative 3y, put a parentheses around the whole thing, to the 4. Put a little plus sign in front of there. Okay. Let's go back to this term. What should I put here? Negative 3y, put it in a parentheses, to the 3rd. The parentheses is important for when you're raising that negative number to a power. Okay. So this is not a subtraction sign, this is a negative. That's why I put it in a parentheses. Then this would be negative 3y squared. Negative 3y, oops. And this is negative 3y to the 0, but we don't write that down because negative 3y to the 0 is 1. Okay. So now let's simplify one more step. What is 4C0? 1, so this is really just 1x to the 4th. I'm not going to have to simplify that any further. But this second term, I have a couple things going on here. So 4C1 is 4. This is x to the 3rd. But what this means is I have a negative 3y. So in a second, I'm going to do times negative 3y. I'm going to have to multiply those two things together. Okay. All right, anybody know what 4C2 is? Is that? So we have 6x squared, and then let's simplify this. What's negative 3y squared? 9y squared. Don't forget that you have to raise that negative 3 to the power as well. All right, so in a second I'll simplify that. 4C3 is 4. And then we have an x. What's negative 3y raised to the 3rd power? Good. Negative 27y to the 3rd. And finally I have 4C4, which is a 1. There's no x term. Negative 3y to the 4th. What is that? Good. Positive 81 y to the... Okay. So what ends up happening when you have a subtraction is when you raise those powers, those negative numbers to odd powers, they stay negative. And so when we simplify this, we're going to have some alternating signs. So nothing happens here. We just have x to the 4th. What would this term, second term, be? I multiplied it. Yeah, in fact, I'll change this to a subtraction sign, okay? Minus 12x cubed y. What would the next term be? I have 6 times x squared times 9 times y squared. 54 x squared y squared. And then what's negative 27 times 4? Negative 100 and... What is that? $88?
Negative 100.
Oh, negative 100. Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. X, y cubed. So I'm going to just have that subtraction there. And then 81 y to the 4th. I'm going to rewrite it so it looks a little neater. Okay, so do you have questions on how I got any of those things? Most mistakes, I know that it seems that, okay, that's not hard, but most mistakes people make here are computational mistakes when they raise those numbers to powers, actually. Or they multiply first and then try to raise it to a power. So order of operation mistakes. So then how does it affect, so yesterday I also showed you how with a combination you could just find the coefficient of a term. And I gave you one with an x and a y. How does it change when it's x and a number? Well, what you have to remember is if it's the x to the 6th, what this is going to be a negative 4 to the 4th, technically. How did I figure that out? How did I figure out that the second thing is going to be negative 4 to the 4th? If they told me this. Yeah, and all of these things, the powers add up to the total power of the function that you're expanding, okay? And then, what did we say? How do we find that number that goes in front? 10C, we had two choices. 10C what? 6 or 10C 4, because we said yesterday those two numbers are going to be the same. So when you have a number, what you have to remember is what we did here is that number does affect that coefficient in front. So you can't just do 10C6 or 10C4. I'm going to have to multiply it by that. So let's do that a second and see what we get. Sure. So the coefficient in front of that term then wouldn't just be 10C6, it'd be 10C6 times negative 4 to the 4th, or 53,760. So that's how having a number in place of a variable affects some of those things that we did yesterday.